Tonight on the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime, it's an unexpected entry into the Royal Rumble matchup, and it's huge. A brand new United States champion was crowned this past Monday night on Raw, and WrestleMania 34 gets a home. All that and all that has happened in the week in wrestling right here, right now on the Primetime PWR Primetime. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time here on Fight TV and YouTube. Damian Nelson sitting alongside David the Octavius, the Tiberius, the alleged backyard, one-time knockout, straight-edge hardcore Hall of Famer hero here on January 12, 2017. How the hell are you, David?
I'm great. I survived the Arctic freeze up here in Milwaukee.
Did you?
Last week. Yeah, it's been terrible. Freezing rain, ridiculous wind chills.
We've gotten some weather. It's been interesting for sure.
Terrible.
What have you done to? What was the highlight of your last week, in a non-wrestling sense?
It's been a good week.
What was the low light of your past week in a wrestling sense? Aside from the press conference on Wednesday. Did you see outgoing POTUS's speech on Tuesday night?
I did.
President Obama, what did you think?
He was very emotional. He's a great speaker.
He is a fantastic speaker.
He
Yes,
really
absolutely.
is.
Mm-hmm. Even as a man who didn't necessarily support him, what did you think of that night for him?
I support the president, no matter who it is. I
Him,
may not agree with
Barack
everything.
Hussein Obama.
Yeah.
That's how the Republicans say it.
Oh, well, I would just would have said President Obama. But no, he did. You know what? Overall, it wasn't a disaster.
As Kevin Nash tweeted, his portfolio is in a better place after the last 8 years of Obama. But be that as it may, folks, let's get down to this week's big story. And the big story is the announcement by WWE, actually a story that was broken by ProWrestlingSheet.com last week and then confirmed by WWE with a press conference on Tuesday. WrestleMania, the granddaddy of them all, returns to the Big Easy, New Orleans, Louisiana. Next year, 2018, just some 4 or 5 years removed.
4 years.
From WrestleMania 30, which took place in the Superdome as well, David Hero. This is
never announced it this early.
You know what? They've been getting earlier and earlier with the announcements. It used to be at WrestleMania. They would announce the next year's WrestleMania. But they've been very strategic in their booking of their shows leading up to WrestleMania because they always end up in the town that next year's WrestleMania is going to happen in. And then, obviously, to have the press conference. Big coup, I think, for New Orleans to have pulled this off to get another WrestleMania, which, if you don't know, WrestleMania has a tremendous financial impact on the host city. So WWE doesn't necessarily pick the city, if you will, and go to the city and say, hey, can we have WrestleMania here? It's a bid process. Cities bid on WrestleMania much like they do the Final Four, much like they do the Super Bowl, and due to whatever package that the city is willing to give for the event, WWE then selects that city to host, and New Orleans has done it again.
Has it ever been, I mean, with the exception of Trump Plaza,
4 and 5,
nothing has ever come back this quick before.
You know, actually, in the earlier days, you look at the big venues that have hosted in the 3 cities, New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles. Obviously, WrestleMania 1 was in New York, WrestleMania 2 was in all 3 of those cities, WrestleMania... that did go a long time, actually. 10 was at Madison Square Garden.
And then
20 was at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
12 was in Los Angeles. 16 was in Los Angeles, WrestleMania 2000. And, yeah, you're right. This is the tightest turnaround we've seen for WrestleMania. What do you think was the secret in the mix, in the sauce, if you will, for New Orleans?
I bet you that they got the rent really cheap for that building.
Yeah. Well, you know, for Barclays Center in Brooklyn, when they do the SummerSlam shows,
no rent.
They don't pay a dime for that, that's huge, folks. I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, plus a percentage of the gate that sometimes these buildings have to be paid in order to host events. And WrestleMania being a big economic boon for WWE, it's going to be much more so in the in the Superdome in New Orleans. Now, here's what a lot of people don't know, and that did happen there. The Superdome is a tremendously well-regarded wrestling venue. Back in I think it was the Mid-South days, they used to run huge shows at the Superdome on a regular basis. So I guess it is fitting that WrestleMania is going to make Superdome one of their normal stops.
Very interesting next year on Bourbon Street.
Shenanigans VIP party?
Oh, can you
Where should we do it? Should we do it at Razoo? Cat's Meow? Pat O'Brien's? Tropical Isle?
I can see that at Cat's Meow.
Cat's Meow? Yes. Oh my gosh.
And we have it in there.
We do have it in there. You know, I've performed on that stage many a time.
I've seen you
I once performed the same night that Lillian Garcia and Pat Patterson did on that stage. During WrestleMania 30 as well. Yes, you do. You're right. It's a great town. It's a party town. It's an easy town to get to and to get out of, and it's going to be interesting when WrestleMania once again returns to New Orleans. What city is there out there, David Hero, that WrestleMania has not been in that you feel it should be in? St. Louis has never hosted. Minneapolis has never hosted. Obviously, Milwaukee hasn't hosted. But apparently, though, I don't know if you recall this or if this story is true, but the rumors are WrestleMania 2000, I believe it was to have happened in Milwaukee at Miller Park.
They thought about it.
And the crane accident, which delayed the stadium's opening for a year, put that to rest.
Can you imagine? That was a big WrestleMania 2000.
It was a huge WrestleMania.
But, I mean, it'll happen in Minneapolis. They got the new stadium there.
Big wrestling town as well.
You got to figure they're going to eventually get to Tampa.
Yeah.
They'll get Jacksonville.
Really? Jacksonville?
Yeah,
Okay.
the Carolinas.
Charlotte could do it.
Charlotte can do it. Absolutely.
Is there any significance in this being the location that the streak ended, Superdome, WrestleMania 30?
I think it's huge.
And we know the end of The Undertaker's career is coming soon. Does the bookend get put on next year?
Absolutely.
At the Superdome?
Yeah. Because he made it very known that his streak ended in New Orleans.
He did this past Monday Night on Raw, which we'll talk more about in a moment.
And he was at the press conference.
He was.
Which, that doesn't happen often.
You're very right. Very right.
You know?
Very right. Well, WrestleMania this year in Orlando, Florida.
I cannot wait for that.
It's going to be a good event. And next year at the Superdome, which we'll be able to get a suite again next year.
I cannot
Unable
wait
to
for
find
that
one
either.
this year.
Yes.
At the Superdome.
And Cal will be on Bourbon Street.
Yeah, we talked about that last week, and I'm just not sure that's the right idea.
It'll be fine. Katie Forbes is down there. She knows the right people.
In Dallas, Texas, he had to work behind a bar because of your shenanigans. In New Orleans, Louisiana, what payoff might he have to execute?
He might learn about a lap dancing.
Are you going to bring beads?
He'll have plenty of beads.
Are you going to bring beads?
I'll bring beads for him. He can toss them off the gimmicks.
That is this week's big story, ladies and gentlemen, which is brought to you by the Shenanigans VIP Party. More information on that coming up later on in the event center. Coming up here on the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time, we have this week's Raw report, this week's SmackDown report, hot news, and the 3 count. Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time continues right after this.
The biggest party event of WrestleMania weekend is back. WWE Hall of Famer Kevin Nash presents Shenanigans Orlando. Join Nash and his friends for a huge VIP party Saturday, April 1st. Party with the biggest stars of wrestling at the pub at Point Orlando on International Drive to kick off WrestleMania weekend. Don't miss Shenanigans Orlando, hosted by Kevin Nash. Tickets are available now and going fast at PWRshow.com. That's PWRshow.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time here on the YouTube and Fight TV. Damian Nelson sitting alongside David Hero here on January 12, 2017. And this week's WWE Raw Report is brought to you by Fight TV. That's F-I-T-E, Fight TV. It's an application you can download to your phone from the iTunes Store or the Google Play Store. As a matter of fact, actually, the easiest way to do it is just type in fight.tv, that's FITE.tv/PWR. You sign in there and you go ahead and download it right to your device from that website, and that helps us out along the way as well with our great partner Fight TV. I got a chance to take a look at TNA's pay-per-view, their one-night-only pay-per-view last Saturday on the Fight TV app.
Really?
And just in case you don't know, while it is an app on your phone, you can watch it on your phone, but you can also wirelessly stream it to your big screen device in your home or wherever it is you may be, and it was good quality watching that pay-per-view from TNA.
What was your standout match?
My standout match? Well, it wasn't a standout match necessarily. It was, of course, Rockstar Spud, who quit.
So sad.
Well, he quit, but he didn't.
He did not quit.
He's got a new gig.
Yes.
And I think it's brilliant.
Oh, he'll be great.
I think it's absolutely fantastic. Do you think that's Jarrett or Mantel? It was before they were. Oh, no, it's part of the...
It's before.
That sounds like it's old schoolish. What we're talking about is Aaron Rex has a new, this is the Raw Report, Aaron Rex has a bit of a new gimmick. Some have said it's Liberace-esque. I think it's more of a mix between the Genius and Damian Sandow. And he's got a sidekick who is Rockstar Spud, who's back to the flashy suits.
He's the manservant.
I'm sorry?
He's a manservant.
This week's WWE Raw Report, ladies and
Isn't that
gentlemen.
what it is?
The big news on Raw this past Monday night as The Undertaker made his return to WWE television for the first time since the 900th episode of SmackDown a couple of weeks back. And where he did make news there, he made more news this past Monday night on Raw when he announced his participation and his entry into the 30th annual Royal Rumble at the Alamo Dome. This is huge.
30 years now for the
It
Rumble?
has, yeah.
Good God almighty.
1988.
You know, the Rumble with just Lesnar, Goldberg, and Taker is stacked.
Yeah.
You throw in Cena, if he's going to be in it.
Well, he's got the match with AJ Styles.
Right.
So he's on the card.
He's on the card, but it's a stacked Rumble.
It is.
And that entrance is still the best thing going.
Is it? You pop for it?
I do. It is the best entrance in all of wrestling.
All of wrestling?
All of wrestling.
Better than Finn Balor.
Way better.
I think Finn Balor's comparable.
I don't.
Speaking of Finn Balor, his injury situation is expected to be resolved pretty soon. Might he be a surprise entrant into the Royal Rumble?
Not at all.
No, why
No,
not?
because he won't win it.
But the Royal Rumble, I don't think, has ever really been about all 30 men having a chance to win it.
But if he's going to come back, put him in a spot where he can shine.
Okay, I think he could do so in the Rumble. You could easily launch him into
He's
a story.
175 pounds.
Here we
Who's he
go.
going to throw out?
Here we go, folks.
Oh, yeah,
Who is
him
he going to
and-
throw
him
out?
and
Rey
Goldberg?
Mysterio at
Him
190.
and Goldberg?
Rey
Him and
Mysterio
Brock
won
Lesnar?
the Royal Rumble, so who did he throw out?
You can thank Eddie Guerrero for that.
No, Eddie Guerrero. No, your reasoning is right. He would have never won it had Eddie not passed. You're right.
Yes.
But he still did physically win the match.
Still not going to happen with Finn
I
Balor.
didn't realize you had hatred for Finn Balor. I know you have issues with his weight.
I don't have hatred.
Or lack
for him.
thereof.
I don't. No, he's a good dude. I have no issues with him. I just can't see him tossing out Taker, tossing out Mark Henry.
He doesn't have
tossing
to.
out
Everybody else
Kane.
can. That's the joy of the Royal Rumble. It's every man for himself, David Hero.
Yes.
The
29
Undertaker.
holes for 29 souls.
Indeed, The Undertaker. You talked about Goldberg. You talked about Lesnar. That's what's great about this is we just talked about it's every man for himself.
And
But
Braun
there
Strowman.
are a lot of men who can win that matchup, which is going to make it much more interesting because going into the Rumble this year, it's not obvious who's going to win and go to Mania. Last several years, it's been obvious who's going to win
No,
that matchup.
I think it's pretty obvious.
Is it really?
Taker's not going in there to do a job.
Okay. So he goes on to face who? Champion of his
Cena.
choice at WrestleMania.
John Cena.
So why, oh why, did we get the Braun Strowman tease on Raw this past Monday night when they cut to him watching The Undertaker's promo in the locker room?
Because you have to. That's the tease. It's to make you think of other things.
Last year,
Braun Strowman's going to go for the biggest dog in the fight. That's Taker.
the match was rumored. Strowman versus, was it Strowman Taker or Strowman Lesnar?
Taker. Or Strowman Lesnar.
Yeah, and people said that was crazy, that was ludicrous. This year, whether it happens or not, do you think that would be a viable matchup for the two?
No, I think it'll be Goldberg and Lesnar again.
Goldberg, Lesnar again. What
Taker
about
and
Taker?
Cena.
Taker and Cena? What if
Yeah.
not Cena? What if Strowman?
I would rather you have to have Cena and Taker.
Before you can't have Cena and Taker.
Yes.
It's a good point. It's a very good point. It was a good return for The Undertaker for sure this past Monday night on Raw, but he wasn't the only person to return this past Monday night on Raw. Heavily promoted was the return as well of the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, who was in an interesting spot in the ring eventually with Enzo and Cass, along with Rusev, Lana, and Jinder Mahal, who looked like he was about to explode, quite frankly.
Who?
Jinder Mahal.
He looks jacked.
Jack to the gills, as you would
Yes.
say. But
That's a lot of curry.
Shawn Michaels' placement in that segment, Rusev shined, in my opinion. I did not realize he was as good verbally
He's
as
very
he
good.
was until this past Monday night.
And now we know why Shawn Michaels wears the cowboy hat that covers his eyes.
Why?
You don't know where he's looking. It's like, is he looking at birds or at squirrels?
Shawn Michaels, should he be an entrant into the Royal Rumble?
Absolutely not.
20 years ago,
He has no desire. He doesn't.
he has
need
no
it.
desire. You're absolutely right.
No.
But 60,000 seats, they got to sell the place.
They're
Why
gonna
not
sell
put him
it.
in
They're
an
gonna
easy
sell it
match?
with Taker, Lesnar, and Goldberg.
But why not put him in an easy match if they've got him? The history is there.
Okay, here's why. Because he just had his retirement match was amazing.
Yes.
Everyone should just think of that as his last
Because
match.
it'll be, that wasn't his last match. He was in the Rumble
Yeah.
too that one year.
And got
I get
eliminated
it.
by Rusev.
I get it. How about the brand new United States champion in Chris Jericho, who the merry-go-round between the three of them, Owens, Jericho, and Reigns continued, but Reigns dropped the title to Jericho this past Monday night.
You can't keep beating guys 2-on-1.
The odds were stacked against Roman Reigns, but now Jericho is the U.S. champion. Kevin Owens is the WWE Raw champion.
They're running the show right now.
They absolutely are, and they're going to run it into the Royal Rumble as well.
And you know what's cool is I didn't realize it's the only title Jericho has not won.
Was it really?
It was the U.S. title.
Interesting.
He's now held everything.
Well, there you go, folks. And that is this week's WWE Raw Report. Coming up, though, on the Pro Wrestling Report, we've got this week's SmackDown Report, Hot News, the 3 Count, and DWHS. Primetime continues right after this break. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time. Damian Nelson sitting here alongside David Hero, and let's get right down to this week's WWE SmackDown Report. SmackDown, coming to us from Baton Rouge, Louisiana this past Tuesday, saw the main event of John Cena defeating your guy, Baron Corbin. Is this the burial that everyone's been talking about on the internet?
It made Baron Corbin look great.
Yes, it did.
He gave John Cena everything John Cena could take.
He did.
And it is Cena. He's gonna get that big victory. But Baron Corbin is a stud. Legit blue chipper stud.
Your guy.
Oh, he is my guy, no doubt.
The matchup was good. John Cena and AJ Styles with the stare down to end the show. We're obviously going into that matchup at the Royal Rumble between the two. And also, we saw some dissension potentially in the Wyatt family as they had a losing effort to American Alpha, and then Bray Wyatt walking off as Luke Harper and Randy Orton have a bit of words for each other after a botched finish.
Amazing. I mean, they've never really explained why Randy Orton joined the Wyatts.
They tried, but you're right, it wasn't very good.
It hasn't been very good. So let's just see what happens going forward, how they're going to eventually, if Randy Orton goes the other way.
Well, what's the end game here? Does it end with Wyatt and Orton? Because that's how it started.
It could be Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania.
That does nothing for me.
No?
No. I don't know what else they do, but that does nothing for me.
Well, where else do you put Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt?
That's why I don't know.
Unless you put them in a tag title match.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That just seems like a waste. But the importance of the tag titles has been made clear in WWE as of late. Speaking of importance of championships, the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship is going to be on the line in a steel cage next Tuesday night on SmackDown. David Hero. Alexa Bliss gets her chance to get one-on-one with Becky Lynch.
Well, Becky Lynch gets to go one-on-one. I mean, she's one that's chasing Alexa Bliss.
Absolutely. Steel cage match with two females on SmackDown next Tuesday. How do you feel about that, David Hero?
It's going to be interesting.
Interesting good or interesting bad?
I think it'll be a solid match. I like Becky Lynch. I think she's great. And Alexa Bliss has definitely improved a lot since they put the belt on her. I never thought she'd be the SmackDown Women's Champ.
Right, yeah.
You know? Mm-hmm. But, Becky Lynch has a lot of great fire, and I still think that she is the face of the women's division on SmackDown.
Dolph Ziggler. It's our first full week of him as a heel.
How about that?
How you feeling about it?
I think it's great.
Kalisto and Apollo Crews were his victims this week at the hands of a steel chair.
Well, you're starting from the bottom with those guys.
You're an Apollo Crews guy. You like him.
Oh, yeah, if you get me some points once in a while.
In the PWR Fantasy Draft, where you're still lagging behind.
Because of Apollo Crews.
A lot can change in the Royal Rumble, though, David Hero. Big bonus points for the Royal Rumble winner coming up on that event in just a couple of weeks' time. What are we, 2 weeks out from the Rumble?
2 weeks. 2 weeks of nonsense in San Antonio.
Indeed, folks. The show opened up, though, with The Miz appearing in Dean Ambrose's asylum. And we would see Maurice get her hands again on Dean Ambrose, slapping the taste out of his mouth.
Who knew that she was like that?
Feisty? Fiery?
Yeah.
I mean, well, sure.
I mean, she's French, Canadian.
And that means?
Obviously, they're violent. Look at her.
Anything else from SmackDown this past Tuesday night on the USA Network?
Just American Alpha.
Yeah, they're good.
Slowly getting big victories.
You know, if you look at how great American Alpha is and was in NXT, and you look at how great the DIY team is in NXT, including this past Wednesday night on the WWE Network, there's some potential there for some wrestling epic contests.
Unless not the Revival is amazing also.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, that is this week's WWE SmackDown report, ladies and gentlemen. Still to come, though, here on the Pro Wrestling Report. We've got the Event Center, hot news, the 3 count, and this week's DWHS.
The biggest party event of WrestleMania weekend is back. WWE Hall of Famer Kevin Nash presents Shenanigans Orlando. Join Nash and his friends for a huge VIP party Saturday, April 1st. Party with the biggest stars of wrestling at the pub at Point Orlando on International Drive to kick off WrestleMania weekend. Don't miss Shenanigans Orlando, hosted by Kevin Nash. Tickets are available now and going fast at PWRshow.com. That's PWRshow.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time here on YouTube and Fight TV. That's F-I-T-E, Fight. Damian Nelson sitting alongside David Hero. And it is indeed time for this week's Event Center. And Linda not with us this week. And our well wishes actually go out to Linda Kay, who had a devastating loss in her family over the last week. And we'll see Linda here soon back on the Pro Wrestling Report. WWE Fastlane comes to Milwaukee on March 5th. Goldberg has been announced as appearing at that show. You can get your tickets at Ticketmaster.com.
You think he's going to wrestle?
Shenanigans, the VIP party, comes to Orlando on April 1st, 2017. More information on some big names signed to that event tomorrow on Feedback Friday. You can get tickets at PWRshow.com. And Ring of Honor returns to Turner Hall on April 28th, 2017. Tickets for that event at papstheater.org.
There's so much stuff going on in Milwaukee.
There absolutely is. And there's so much going on in the wrestling world as well. So it is time to go to this week's Hot News. And remember, Hot News is brought to you by Loot Crate. Loot Crate, where you can get your WWE Slam Crate for 10% off, just simply going to lootcrate.com/PWR. We saw a big unboxing last week on Feedback Friday of our monthly Loot Crate box. Again, that's lootcrate.com/PWR. Jimmy Superfly Snuka is, in a better place, but not so much so in regards to his trial that he had been subject to for murder. He was accused of murder some 30 years ago, and those charges have since now been dropped. Unfortunately, the reason that they were dropped is it is reported that Jimmy Snuka may not have more than 6 months left to live.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, that whole case could have changed everything for a lot of people.
A lot of people, a lot of shenanigans surrounding
there's a lot of shenanigans surrounding
that situation
yes.
from that murder. ESPN's going to be airing a documentary on the XFL. That show is going to premiere on February 2nd, and included with that documentary will be comments from Vince McMahon, Bob Costas, and many others who are involved in the ill-fated XFL.
It'll be good to watch.
Mm-hmm. Especially since it's an ESPN story, not a revisionist WWE version of the story. TNA is going to be returning to Orlando, Florida for tapings in early March. Now, this is contrary to what we thought would happen, which would be tapings during WrestleMania weekend. However, the company is rumored to be looking at doing some live events over the Mania weekend in Orlando. That schedule's real tight. We talked about it last week, though, David Hero. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but they can do it in the afternoon at Universal.
They could, but I'm not sure. I mean, they have an opportunity to make some money, though. So why not rent a building and do a real live event?
Because they won't do that.
New era, new management.
We'll see.
She's gone.
We'll see.
Ring of Honor news, folks. Bobby Fish has signed a new contract with the company. We talked about Kyle O'Reilly's situation as far as his contract a couple of weeks back. No new news there. But this is said to be a very good get for Ring of Honor Wrestling, and some rumors are out there that Bobby Fish not too much satisfied with how he was used over the last 12 months, but giving Ring of Honor yet another chance. And as we said in the Event Center a few minutes ago, Ring of Honor does return to Milwaukee on April 28th. That is this week's hot news, ladies and gentlemen. It's time now, David Hero, to go to the 3 count. 3 topics, 1 minute each, and the first of which is Josh Barnett, the commentator who works with JR on Access TV for New Japan Pro Wrestling, is making his debut, on TNA Wrestling.
Also.
He is.
Yeah, UFC guy.
Been around for a long time, made his debut on TNA Impact Wrestling. What do you think?
There's no doubt it's him and Bobby Lashley.
Yeah.
You know, it's headed that way. It's going to be, do we spoil anything?
I think it happened this week. I think it happened tonight. I think he debuted tonight.
Right, but it's going to be for the big prize. There's no doubt about it that Barnett's not coming in just to feud with Lashley unless there's a title involved.
True. Very
You know
true.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And it'll be good. I mean, it's going to be stiff. It'll be a work shoot match, and
Does he have any value, Josh Barnett?
I think
Meaning,
so.
is this really viewed as a get?
I think so.
Okay.
You know,
All right. Well, the next subject is, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, David Hero, but the question I'll ask again, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, will he be in the Royal Rumble?
absolutely not.
Unequivocally?
He's that kind of guy.
He's that kind of guy. Okay, so if not HBK, what big name will we get in the Rumble? If not, I mean, on top of what's already
I
been
can
announced.
see Triple H getting involved again.
Interesting.
We haven't seen him in forever.
We haven't, and Seth Rollins has been
He
looking
could
for
be
him.
the guy that comes in and costs Seth Rollins the Rumble.
Wow. Setting up a match at WrestleMania, which would be great between the two.
And if Kurt Angle can pass his concussion test, you could see him in there also.
I want to see Kurt Angle in the Royal Rumble. This is the best opportunity. Do a one-off thing. That would pop the place
Of
huge.
course it would be. People love Kurt
12
Angle.
years after his departure.
Yeah.
That's huge.
And when that music starts, it'd be great.
Yeah.
But as far as other guys, I can't think of anybody else. I mean, you'll have some of the cruiserweights in there.
Well, next topic here on the 3 Count. The final topic is return to NXT. Cassius Ohno, good old Chris Hero, David
KO.
Hero, back in NXT after leaving several months back.
That's a good sign.
It's a good sign.
I mean, he's a talented guy. You know, I mean, he's back in shape from what I understand. I mean,
That was the issue before.
that was the issue before. It's interesting that Kevin Owens is KO and now Cassius Ohno is a KO. It's a double KO in NXT. Who's going to get more T-shirts done now?
That's a good question, folks. And that is this week's 3 Count. And with that, it's time now to roll into the final leg of our journey this week, and that is DWHS. David Hero, what have you spoken about this week?
I ain't gonna lie. It's been a rough week. There hasn't been a whole
Wrestling-wise.
Yeah, there hasn't been a whole lot of stuff that I feel strongly about.
You got nothing? You come to the table with nothing?
Yeah, I really don't.
You got one segment. One.
I know, it's only 2 minutes.
I thought you, okay, let's talk about this then, because we've gotten some questions about it. Why we chose and have chosen not to cover Wrestle Kingdom 11 from New
I
Japan Pro
couldn't
Wrestling.
understand the commentary.
Well, it's going to be airing soon with Jim Ross and Josh Barnett on
Yeah,
Access TV. But
But when it was on, I couldn't understand anything.
here's
I
what
turned it
I'm
off.
confused by. I didn't watch it. I'm not going to watch it. I might watch the main event matchup. It just hasn't fit into my schedule yet. And here's the thing. It was a great wrestling show, I'm sure. There were great wrestling matches, I'm sure.
Cody Rhodes was there.
There was not a ton of showmanship and there wasn't the spectacle, I guess you could
Pomp
call
and
it. The pomp and
circumstance.
circumstance. There you go. And I sort of need that to watch wrestling. And a lot of fans love and want to see more great wrestling. And I think that's what's great about New Japan and this Wrestle Kingdom show is you have that chance to watch it occasionally.
occasionally.
But nobody wants to see it every week because nobody watches anything like that every week. These same people who love Wrestle Kingdom 11, I'm certain, aren't regularly tuning into New Japan on Access TV either.
I'm sure you're right. Wow.
Ooh, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, Damian Nelson has spoken.
Who knew?
Feels good. Feels good. You know, the Pope allows me to say it. You stole it from him.
Who?
I got permission. The Pope. You stole that from the Pope. Pope has
When were
spoken.
you in
Remember
the Vatican?
PHS? The Black Pope, Elijah Burke.
There's a black pope?
There is a Black Pope. Yes, he's on Pop TV every Thursday night, doing commentary on Impact Wrestling.
Oh, D'Angelo.
De Niro.
De Niro.
Folks, that is this week's edition of the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time. We invite you to subscribe to us here
Daddy.
on YouTube and also comment on our episode. Share your thoughts right down below, and you might end up being one of the featured comments that we discuss tomorrow on Feedback Friday. Also, be sure to follow us on Twitter at Damian Nelson and
David Hero.
of course, the brand at PWR Show. For that one, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow on a brand new edition of Feedback Friday.